A lot of people, man, they put their fears on other people because they're too afraid of doing that, and they think it's too big, or they think you can't do it. You know, there were certain people who like suggested for me like not to go to USC when that was the school I wanted to go to. I would never tell a kid like, oh, you shouldn't go to USC.
Don't go to USC. Don't go to the best school in the nation.
right. Like, and that was my thing. Like, why wouldn't I? A kid from Colton Projects with an opportunity to go. So the fact that, you know, I was able to do that is kind of like you said, why not? Why not go to a school like that? And I'm always suggest and tell kids that if you have the opportunity to, you should take advantage of it. Like that's what's only one thing that I demand from my kids, man. They got to go to USC. That's like the only thing.
So that USC UCLA Bruin rivalry is a real thing.
We do not like those guys at all. But like Shay said, that's the only thing I demand from my kids is like, you got to go to USC. You know what I mean? Whether I got to go get a job there, for you can go there for free, or I got to spend my whole retirement paying for you to go to college.
Or they could go to UNLV. I'm just saying, man, we are the next best thing coming up in town. Yo, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Ryan Tillman Show. It is a pleasure to be back. Thank you guys so much for subscribing to us. We continue to bring you guys the best guests in town. I mean, on a global level, not just the city, but the world, like was said in Friday. Today, I got a good friend of mine on the show who has done amazing things, not just in life, but also making it to one of the most prestigious levels of professional sports you can ever think of, the NFL. And the coolest thing about it is he's a local legend. He and I grew up together. We played against each other. And when he was at Colton High School, I played at Rialto High School. So welcome to the show, Shareece Wright.
Thank you for having me.
Deuce, man. This is a long time coming, bro.
It's been a while.
How you doing, Doc?
I'm blessed, man. I'm so blessed. I'm just, enjoying the retirement life and being dad and, just, trying to give back to the community and, and keep changing lives.
What is the retirement like, bro? Because, I mean, you played your whole life sports.
Yeah.
And then that transition happens. Sometimes it's difficult, sometimes it's easy. So what's retirement like for you, and what is your next journey? What are you focusing on now?
Man, retirement's been it's been good. It's been up and down. It's been the beginning of it. I just, for me was just I just try to take my mind off of it, stay busy. So when I initially knew, like, all right, this is it, no more football, I just focus on my nonprofit. I focus on, obviously my kids, because I was missing a lot of time playing with them, and just doing different businesses, investing, man, keep myself busy, not even thinking about, I probably didn't even watch football like the first year out of retirement.
Yeah.
Just because I didn't want to have to go through those stages of like wanting to play, not play.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. Like you said, when you do something, I was playing football for 20 years of my life, at that point when I retired, so that's all I really ever did.
Yeah.
But I was always interested in being a businessman and starting businesses and entrepreneurship and things like that. So that it was easy for me to I owned a trucking company before I even retired. So that kept me busy after I retired. And then, just being a dad, man, just making sure, I'm there for my kids and make up for that time that was lost. But
man, it's so good, bro. And it's good to know that you had a plan coming out of it.
Yeah.
I can relate. I remember I never made it to the NFL. My last year was playing at UNLV, I think in 2009. But I remember coming out, like, I didn't watch football. I didn't really play football at all. Like, people would invite me out because, you go through those phases like, dang, like, man, should I have tried? Should I have kept going?
Right.
And then I remember the first year I ever played fantasy football, and then I was hooked, bro. I was like, why did I do this sooner? So, I mean, do you play fantasy at all or no?
No, man. I just started coaching, actually, right? So, never really thought about being a coach, but, like, as I'm out there and I'm like scheming and like, I'm like, dang, this is like the closest thing to it without actually playing, and it's like, why didn't I do this sooner? I felt the same way about that, but like I said, I just try to stay away. It was like one of those things where like I didn't want to be like missing it, so I just try to get away from it. But now I'm like, dang, I should have been doing this, but I haven't got into fantasy or nothing like that.
Man, you guys were local legends, and I'm when I say that, I'm being serious. I mean, you, Alan Bradford, Jimmy Smith, Local Sorensen.
Sorensen, yeah.
I mean, all of you
Both the
guys.
Sorensens,
Yeah,
man.
both the
Brother won the
Sorensens.
Super Bowl with the Chiefs.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
All out of Colton.
Yeah.
I still remember playing you guys. This is a funny experience, bro. I remember playing y'all. Now, at Rialto, we had a lot of talent on our team, but we were a trash football program.
Right.
And I remember when we played you guys and we went, y'all was smashing us. And I was playing quarterback, and I remember throwing it at my boy Jeremy. We called him Jay Buttis. And so he had ran a hitch route. And so I threw him the ball, and as I was throwing the ball, bro, one of y'all, it was probably Allen. I think Allen like smacked me because he was playing linebacker, and you were playing corner. And as soon as Jeremy caught the ball, he got smacked. Or Jimmy, it might have been Jimmy.
Jimmy that smacked your boy when you threw the ball.
So Jimmy gets smacked, and so me and Jeremy just looking at each other on the ground, just shaking our head like, bro, this is not even funny. But man, you guys go through high school, you guys kill it. You guys go to SC. All of you guys ultimately get drafted. I mean, what was that experience like for you, reaching such a pivotal point in your life, especially coming from where we came from, where we grew up at in Inland Empire?
Man, it was surreal, man. It was one of those things where like you said, for all of us to be able to, live out our dream and do something that we've always been wanting to do, man. It was surreal, bro. It was kind of like you say, it was unbelievable, but it's like, it's reality. So you got to snap in and you got to, you got to be ready to go. And it's one of those things, even for me, man, to even taking it back before the NFL, just graduating from Colton High School, like June 16th, and then being in a USC classroom July, not even a month later. And I'm in this classroom like, man, asking myself, like, am I even ready for this? Like, I went from Colton High School where I probably didn't even take my backpack out of my car, right, in high school.
And now you're one of the most prestigious colleges.
One of the most prestigious classrooms. I'm in here with like 30-year-olds, and it's like, it was just...
This is what they do.
Right.
Like scholastics is what they do.
Right. And it was, for me, it started then, man, for me to be able to say, like, from Colton Projects, to be able to, like, go to a prestigious institution like USC for free. You know what I mean? It's just life-changing, and it was one of those things where I'm here, I'm like, man, I can't wait to give this information to my family. Like, it's a whole nother world. Just the way people think, the way they, like, everything was just like new, and like, man, it's a whole nother world. I couldn't wait to get back and like give the wisdom and the knowledge to like my family. Like, man, if people knew this type of stuff, it would be way more successful in life. But so I just thank God, man. It's just such a blessing to be able to have the opportunity to do that. You're
killing it, and I love watching it from the sidelines. You started a nonprofit organization. Tell me about your nonprofit.
Righthouse Foundation, man. It originally started from I wanted to do a group home, juvenile group home. I remember going to college and like, what do you want to major in? I don't know. I just want to help.
Yeah.
I want to help kids. I want to help troubled teenagers. I was one of those kids who were troubled, not necessarily like a bad kid, but just troubled.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really understand, why I went through certain things, why my dad wasn't there, had a lot of anger, and got myself in certain situations that, wasn't good. And I just want to help kids. I remember one of my good friends, his mom owns group homes. And so before...
talking about TAM?
TAM, yeah.
Yeah,
TAM,
yeah,
right?
yeah, TAM.
Burhay
Yep.
Group Home. And I remember going to one of the homes to talk to the kids, man. And it was one of these kids there. He kind of got my attention. I got in trouble at school, and I started talking to him. And he kind of told me somebody said something to him. He said something back, and then like he got in trouble. And I'm like, look, man, you got in trouble for what somebody did, and now you not only in trouble at school, you're at trouble at home. And like, you think that person life is affected in any type of way. Like, you have to deal with that. I'm like, you can't let what other people do like dictate what you do. And I just like talked to him, man, for like probably like an hour, man. And I was like, it was like time to leave. And he was like, like wanting to say something to me. He's like, you about to leave? I'm like, yeah, man, I gotta go. And this kid started crying. And he was like, man, I never had nobody talk to me like that before. You know what I mean? And he's like crying, and I'm like, wow, like this is crazy. And I just it just touched me, man. And I kept in touch with this kid. He ended up started playing football, played quarterback, ended up like doing good. We would keep up a lot before I got off Facebook, but for me, that was like one of those things where like this is something that I need to do to be able to, impact these kids' lives, you know what I mean, and be able to understand them and relate to them. And so I started Righthouse Foundation, and that's why it's called Righthouse Foundation. And that was originally how we still haven't like accomplished that as far as getting group homes, because the structure
Takes time.
of it, and they're changing. It changed so many times. They went from group homes to treatment facilities, and it's just a lot of different things. Even that system, for me, I feel like I wish I could change that to where it'll be more impactful for these kids.
Well, you're talking to somebody that might be able to do that eventually.
Definitely,
100%.
Definitely, because I think that's a big system that needs to be fixed,
100%.
group home situation to really help those kids. But then from there, man, we just kind of went to like helping provide resources to underprivileged families, doing food drives, man. During COVID, we're able to like feed like I want to say like 1,000 families a week or something crazy. Being able to, I ended up having I have a trucking company, so I had the big old reefer trucks, and my boy Dominic Verret, he has have a nonprofit. He was able to secure the food, and I had the trucks. So we got together, man. We partnered up. He's his Lila project, and we twice a week they fill that truck up, and we went to different cities, man, and passed out the whole truck full of food, man.
That's amazing.
It was a blessing to be able to do that. So then we did Christmas events, back to school things, back to school haircuts, Christmas drive, turkey drives. I always go back to the projects in Colton and provide them with a whole Thanksgiving meal. So just doing things like that, man, to really just, do all the things that I always wanted to do to help people when I was a kid, just wishing I can like really, give people more than what they had. And for me,
well, you're doing it, man. It's evident of that. Yeah. And, I don't know if I talked about this recently on one of my episodes of the podcast, but it was about 2 or 3 months ago. I went to San Quentin prison. And this has been the second or third time that I've been to one of our state penitentiaries to go and speak. So I spoke to the guards first, which was interesting. It was cool to talk to them. But what really resonated with me was talking to the inmates. And as I was talking to the inmates, they're about 23, 24 years old, young guys. Black guys. And as I'm talking to them, I mean, we were just chopping it up. Cool. Like if we were outside the prison walls, it would have been like, we could have probably been cool in some capacity. Like they just really good, were super bought in, taking notes of everything that I was telling them. I'm older than them, obviously. So they're like taking notes, trying to figure out how they can better themselves. So finally I worked up enough courage to ask them, like, how long are you going to be in prison for? And I say courage because you never know what they're going to tell you. Like, if they tell you something long and it's like it makes you feel bad, they could tell you, another year. Both times I talked to the guys, or the two separate individuals, both of them said that they were in there 15 years to life. And they're in there for murder. My heart broke, Deuce. Like, my heart literally broke, because I'm just thinking, like, man, like, you literally just threw your life away. And a lot of it was, probably your circumstance of where you grew up. So then I asked them a follow-up question, and I said, was your dad in your life? And I asked this to both the guys, and both of them responded, nope, never knew my dad. So then I asked another question. I said, had your dad been in your life, do you think your circumstances would be different? And both of them responded, I absolutely think my circumstances would have been different. And the reason that shook me to my core was because I'm like, man, it's these things right here that can change a generation. It can literally turn the page of a cycle.
Right.
But yet, we are not giving people the needs. We're not teaching people. We're not giving them the structures they need to thrive. So the reason I bring it up is because I truly value like the work that you're doing, because it is making systematic impact. It's those programs, it's that investment that you're making into them that will help them turn the page of their life. and your work, I'm telling you, is not going unnoticed.
Yeah, man. It's really, you know, evident as far as this, you know, having a presence of a father in your life. You know, I didn't have my dad in my life. You know, I had God that was guiding me and protecting me before I even realized and knew it. But you know, and I had coaches and stuff like that. But man, it's a real thing, man, when, you know, these kids are going without that father in their life and that role model, that leader, that mentor. It's a real thing, and you know, and probably 90% of the kids, they're probably, or the
Man.
man in prison probably didn't have fathers, and their fathers probably didn't have fathers. My dad never met his dad, and you know what I mean. It's one
So
of
it's a
those
cycle.
things. And I didn't understand that. I didn't really know until I got older, and I was just angry about like why he wasn't there helping my mom. And you know, my mom had 6 kids. It was like, and you know, I remember, and I love my dad. Obviously, I know who he is. He kind of came and gone. I remember I got his name tatted on me. I have a tattoo, and it says "My Inspiration," and has my mom, my dad, all my siblings, my nephews, and my mom was kind of like, "How did he?" I said, "Mom, he inspired me to not be like him, and to make sure when I have kids that like I'm gonna be there for my kids, no matter what the circumstances are. I'm gonna do my best to be there for him." So he inspired me to be better.
Wow.
You know what I mean? In a way that he don't even probably realize.
Wow.
But it was one of those things where like I knew how I felt when he wasn't there, and I knew how I felt when he was there as a kid. And I'm just like, no matter, and it wasn't even about money or anything.
Yeah.
Just being there, you know, was a great feeling for me as a kid to be there with my dad. So I say he inspired me to like make sure, you know, that's why I'm the father that I am today to my kids.
And you're an awesome dad, by the
of
way.
that. I do my best, man. I do my
You're
best.
awesome dad.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I do my best, man. It means a lot to me because, like I said, I just know how I felt as a kid, not having a dad, and just how it impacted my life. And he said having anger issues because I didn't really understand. My mom didn't sit down like, son, or like your dad's not here because there's a thing called like crack that was put in the streets, and it took a lot of the fathers out of the household back then, and put a lot of them in prison back then. During that time, my dad wasn't the only one. It was something that was systematically like I feel like put in it worked for a lot of dads. They weren't able to survive that. My dad was up against something way stronger,
Way bigger than
than I have ever been up against, and that's a drug. And when you get on a drug like that, it's hard. You know?
So you bring up 2 good points. Number one is you can find inspiration even in the negative stuff. I was just having a conversation with somebody on the way over here today, and I was talking about meeting with certain candidates, other gubernatorial candidates that have ran, and not one. And I'm not going to name names about one of the people that I met with, but one of my friends was like, "Why did you meet with that person?" And I was like, "So I can learn what not to do."
Right.
And when I said that, they kind of laughed, but I'm like, it's true. It was like, you can find inspiration even in failure because it teaches you to avoid certain pitfalls that others made before you. And so I think your outlook on that with your father, other people can learn from. I have another good friend, AJ. I think he's kind of said something similar to that, is that even though his dad wasn't present in his life, he learned what not to be when it came to be a father. You also brought up the crack cocaine and drugs, and your mom, you were close to your mom.
Man.
Your mom was your rock.
Right.
You know, your mom, you know, I don't know if I ever got to meet your mom. Maybe I did. And if I did, it was once did she come to my house one time
I think possibly
for prom? I know when Aaron was dating Jimmy, and I'm getting everybody's business out now. Such and such is doing this, and such is doing that.
Yeah.
But I remember, I want to say I've met your mom before, but your mom was a sweet lady.
Yeah,
man.
she was the sweetest lady, man. The strongest woman that I've ever and came across and met, and you know, and I feel like that's kind of like, you know, the things I've been through in my life. It's like, man, the strength that she had, you know, it's in me for sure, because, you know, the things I've been through, you have to be strong. And it's seeing my mom go through, like living my mom going through these things, and watching her raising 6 kids by herself, you know, and the things we went through as a family, and just how strong she she continued to be, and she never allowed us to get in the system. And she always kept a roof over our head, and made sure we ate breakfast every day. So to see her persevere through these things, man, it just, like you say, even that, I just look at that now when I'm going through things, like, man, I gotta stay strong. Like, my mom never, even being a dad, it's like sometimes it gets, and I take my kids and have them for weeks at a time, and sometimes it gets hard, and I just think about her, like, man, my mom, she never wavered, man. 6 of us, and 4 boys, 2 girls, and I wasn't the easiest kid to deal with, man. Like, I gave my mom a hard time, not, really understanding, but she was very strong.
So we just celebrated Mother's Day a few weeks ago. That was a difficult day.
Yeah.
Your mom tragically lost her life.
Right.
Would you be willing to share a little bit with how your mom lost her life? And I think it's important to talk about, because as we talk about, helping the future generations and causing, generational or systematic changes, I think your mother's story could help be a testament for others to get them to get through whatever they're going through.
Yeah, definitely, man. It is. My mom, she passed away from an overdose of fentanyl. A fentanyl overdose. She struggled, with, she had like hurt her back or did something where she got on these opioids and these Norcos and painkillers, and she ended up getting addicted to them, and it was going on for a while. I want to say it was my rookie year in the NFL, my rookie year in the NFL when I discovered that she was struggling with these things. And I remember, having a conversation with her and told her, like, whenever you're ready to get some help, I'm gonna make sure I help you. And I put her up in the facility and sent her to rehab up in San Diego. Found her one of the best facilities I could send her to try to help her, get over this the disease of addiction. And she battled with that a long time. And then I want to say 2 years ago, someone gave her a fake pill, Percocet, and it killed her. Yeah.
Man, I'm so sorry for you, Deuce. And it breaks my heart because as a police officer, I saw it firsthand. I'll never forget years ago on Thanksgiving morning, I responded to a house of an overdose. And the guy I was dealing with, he probably was no older than 19 years old. And the same exact thing, he took what he thought was an Oxycontin or oxycodone, I think, yeah. And so he took what he believed was that his friends thought he was snoring and just sleeping. So his friends just said, hey, let's just let him sleep it off, not realizing that he was having an overdose, and he ended up passing away. And as I was, kind of just taking it all in on the scene, in my mind I was thinking, like, man, Thanksgiving morning, and this monster of a drug took the life of somebody, a young boy, who never even got his life started.
Right.
And I know you mentioned the disease.
Right.
And I agree with you, being a disease. Before I got into law enforcement, you just hear, all drug addicts or, all these different phrases that you would use for somebody who's strung out on drugs. Right. And I will admit, as a police officer over time, sometimes you start becoming desensitized to it. Right. Because a lot of times the people that you're dealing with habitually are people who are addicted to drugs. So over time, officers will start getting frustrated and start saying this drug addict here or this or that. But I started realizing that it is a legitimate disease. Definitely. And what made me change my viewpoint and vantage point on that was this one young lady I had arrested for drugs at a restaurant, an abandoned restaurant. And I tell this story when I'm in schools. So I arrested her. She had foil on her. She had all the paraphernalia that goes along with drugs. So when I'm driving her to the jail, I asked her for her identification in her property. She's in the back seat. So she says, my ID's in the back. So I look at the ID and I'm like, ma'am, this isn't your ID. She says, sir, I'm not lying to you. She says, this is my ID. I said, ma'am, the lady in this picture is not you. She says, I'm not lying. I said, give me your date of birth. She gives me her date of birth. Boom. I said, well, give me the driver's license number. Boom. She gives it to me. So then I look again. I'm like, oh, shoot, like this is really you. The reason I didn't believe it is because the young lady in the ID was a young, attractive young lady, right?
Right.
The person in the backseat of my car looked completely different.
Yeah.
And so I start asking, I said, ma'am, how did this happen to you? She says, sir, I was diagnosed with breast cancer at a young age. I went into the hospital and they gave me painkillers to get off of it. Once I was released from the hospital, I was still addicted to the painkillers,
Right.
but I can no longer get access to the prescription and for them to give me the right dosage. So when I couldn't get access to the painkillers through my doctor, somebody introduced me to heroin. So I started using heroin, and that became much stronger than what the painkiller was. And I've been struggling to get off of this drug ever since, and I can't.
Yeah.
And I heard that story so many times, and I started realizing that the people that are addicted to these narcotics were normal people.
Right.
So when I talk to police officers, when I go out there and I talk to people, I say, look, these drugs, it doesn't discriminate.
Right. No, not at all.
It doesn't discriminate because it can happen to your loved one. And that could be your loved one that's homeless on the street, using behind buildings or whatever it may be. And so that we have to start changing our perspective.
Right.
And we have to start going after the people that are allowing these drugs on our streets.
Right.
What's your thought on that?
And you're right, man, because I seen it firsthand from like teammates who get surgery. They get these
Percocet,
and
all that.
now they're taking them for a whole month. Of course, your body's gonna anything like that. What's a controlled substance? If you take it long enough, you're gonna get addicted to it. It's just you can't do anything.
Can't escape it.
And once it happens, like you said, it's a disease, and it's gonna be a lifelong thing trying to get off of it. So like you said, and these are people who have jobs, and these are normal people who are not on the streets, and they're addicted to these painkillers, like you said. But once you can't get them no more, you gotta really like go about it the right way on getting off these substances, and it's not easy. It's very hard to overcome an addiction, and most people don't have the discipline to be able to do that. And and I can't, I stay away from anything that I can get addicted to.
That's a smart move.
Drinking was one of the things that, which I don't drink. I haven't drank in like 8 months.
Oh, wow.
I ended up cutting out alcohol out of my life. And, I seen a lot of it. I seen a lot of my family members addicted to drugs and, on speed, heroin, like cousins that I looked up to at one point ended up on the streets. And alcoholism in my family, my grandpa, he passed away from, pretty much drinking so much. He was drinking every day. So for me, like you said, I just use those things to like motivate and inspire me to not do that. And I know it's in my blood, it's in my DNA, because a lot of family members are addicted to certain things or alcoholics. So I try to stay away from those things. And like I said, especially after, what happened to my mom, and not only that, it was like a family member gave my mom this pill and took her life away. So for me, it was definitely hard to deal with, and to, I ended up going and checking myself into a rehab facility for mental health, not because I was addicted to anything, but I really needed to like get away and go get some help, and get a therapist and really do the work that was needed, so I didn't end up on the streets and end up on drugs, or and end up destroying my life. And I could see how that happens to people when they lose a family, lose a mother, or lose a loved one. I see how it's so easy to go down that dark road, trying to numb the pain and numb the feeling of, people usually go to drinking and using drugs. So I just thank God for the strength that I had to like not go down that route. Because like you said, my mom was everything for me. She was my reason and my why of me even going to the NFL was just to take care of her and buy her a house and buy her a car and do all those things that I never was able to see a man do for her. And I felt like, you know, as her son, I wanted to do these things, buy her flowers and send her on vacation and take her to dinner, all those things that she deserved as a mom. That was, you know, something that, you know, that kept me going. And in those days, I didn't want to wake up and go work out at 5 a.m. and then,
The 5
you
a.m.
know, go to
workouts.
class and then, you know, and those days that I didn't want to do that, you know, that's what kind of, you know, inspired me. So and I see it happen, man. I've seen it happen so many times. I said teammates that were the best athletes end up getting surgery and getting addicted to these drugs, and it's been a lifelong battle. And, you know,
Especially when you're in, I remember seeing it in college.
College, yeah. It's the first time I really seen it at that level. These guys were, you know, popping these painkillers. And thank God I never had surgery. All those
I
years
did,
played
and they
football.
gave me. So I had surgery on my shoulder, and they prescribed me Percocet. Now my mom, being wise, she was like, "You ain't take." I took it one time, and I'll never forget sitting on the couch. I was like, "I feel like I'm in the clouds right now." It was crazy. And so my mom was like, "Not again, bro." And she was like, "You gonna take some Motrin or something?"
Right.
But yeah, you're such a young age. I mean, you're 18, 19, 20 years old, unmonitored.
Right.
So let me ask you. So you check yourself in. Do you feel like that helped you out coming out of it?
Definitely, man. It was one of those. I remember taking my mom when she went into rehab and dropping her off, and you know, it took her a little while to like come to those terms that like, all right, son, I'm ready, you know, to do this. And I'm like, dang, it didn't take me a long time. Once I like knew like, you know, this is probably what's best for me. I just, you know, it took me back, and I was reflecting on just, you know, the time when I took her, and it definitely helped me, man. It was one of those things where like you say, even I had never really had a therapist up until that point. And I'm a sociology major. I'm majoring in sociology. So like just having that wisdom and things that I knew from that kind of helped me during that time. But I knew, you know, I needed more because the thoughts that I was having and, you know, where I was at that time, I knew that it would help me. And it was one of the best things that I've done since then, you know, because it really helped me, you know, and I stopped drinking, you know, I was completely sober, you know, and I was able to
So
like
amazing.
have a dream about my mom during that time when I was there, you know what I mean? And I want to say almost probably like 11 months after she passed away is when I went, and I hadn't like had a dream or anything.
Wow.
But it wasn't until then, you know, I'm praying every night, reading my Bible, just spiritually getting more connected to God, and just, you know, just making sure my mind and everything was right. And I was able to dream about her and see her in my dream and hug her and, you know, and tell her I love her. I started crying in my dream. I woke up crying. It was crazy. But it was like that closure for me to like know like my mom was all right, and you know, she's in a better place, and she's not suffering no more, and you know, and she's getting rest, and you know, now I just gotta continue to make her happy, man, and just, you know.
Well, you're breaking the stigma, and historically there's been negative stigma centered around checking yourself in to, you know, get mental health or your mental help. But you're breaking so many stigmas. We're breaking stigmas.
Right.
I mean, when you sat down today, you know, one of the things you said I thought was cool is you said, it's not often you get to sit down with somebody who's running for governor.
Man, it's a big deal,
bro. It's a huge deal.
I don't know how many, like I said, I don't know how many people can say that they have a friend, a close friend at that, you know, that's even in the position or in to have the courage to like go and do something so big. You know, it's a big deal, man. We're talking about having an impact and being able to change and make difference in life, and that's how you do it. You got to get people in control and in those positions to be able to make change. I can pass out food every day and feed people, but like people are still going to be here and still going to need this food. Like, what more can we do to stop me from I love doing it, but it's like, I don't want to have to do that, right?
You want to
like,
fix that
I
problem.
want to be able where people won't need that.
Correct.
They don't need me to come and give them free food because they're in a better position to be able to go buy their own food.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So it's just levels to it. You know,
and that's what I love. Like, we talk about this breaking the stigmas. It's like, man, like, why not?
Right.
I keep saying that on this this campaign, people have said, why not run for or why not run for city council? Why run for mayor? Why not run for Congress? And in my mind, I'm like, why not run for governor?
Right.
Why not? And so what you have done and accomplished and continue to do, and what so many others, is like, this is how we start to break generational cycles and curses, is by showing the next generation you can do anything.
Right.
It doesn't mean that things won't be easy.
Right.
But it definitely means that you can absolutely go out there and get after it. And I think that's what's so inspiring me. That's what's so inspiring about your story to me, is like, man, like, we could go out there and do this. We absolutely could. Win or lose,
Right.
you take the step.
Right.
I mean, obviously, I hope I win, but say I don't win. Say I win later, but say I don't win later. What if my kids see me one day and they're like, you know what, I'm going to do it. And now my kids win. But it was because of my obedience to serving the Lord, number one, and being obedient to what He wants me to do. But now they walk in what they're called to do. Right. So I just think there's so much value of taking trauma and learning how to turn that trauma into a testimony for somebody else. Right. And as I listen to you today, that's exactly what you've done. You've taken your tests and you've turned them into testimonies. So that way, not only you can live a better life, but others around you can live better lives.
To inspire those. And you're saying a lot of people, man, they put their fears on other people because they're too afraid of doing that, and they think it's too big, or they think you can't do it, and they're afraid because they feel like they can. They put their fears on you. I tell a story all the time how people, there were certain people who like suggested for me like not to go to USC when that was the school I wanted to go to, and it's just like it's one of those things where like you would think that like no one was telling me that. I would never tell a kid like, you shouldn't go to USC.
Don't go to USC. Don't go to the best school in the nation.
Right. Like, and that was my thing. Like, why wouldn't I? A kid from Colton Projects with an opportunity to go, which if I wasn't playing sports, I probably would never be able to get into a university like that. One, probably didn't have the grades, most likely, and two, just couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
Right. Being able to pay for it. So the fact that, I was able to do that is kind of like you said, why not? Why not go to a school like that? And I'm always suggest and tell kids that if you have the opportunity to, you should
take advantage of
it. Like that's what's only one thing that I demand from my kids, man. They got to go to USC. That's like the only thing.
So that USC UCLA Bruin rivalry is a real thing.
We do not like those guys at all. But like Shay said, that's the only thing I demand from my kids is like, you got to go to USC. You know what I mean? Whether I got to go get a job there, for you can go there for free, or I got to spend my whole retirement paying for you to go to college. Man. But that's just the only thing that I.
Or they could go to UNLV. I'm just saying, man, we are the next best thing coming up in town. I have a couple more questions before I get you out of here. So what would you say has been your best experiences thus far in your life? I don't want to limit it to the NFL because it may be something out of the NFL. It could be. I just wanted to, what would you say is one of your best experiences?
College, I would say, outside of being a dad, my best experience, I would say college, man. That 4 years that I was there at a young age and really growing into the man that I became, man, and just like the battles and the struggles and the adversity that I had to overcome, and breaking my neck, not making grades.
I forgot you broke your neck.
Yeah, things like that.
Did you break that in a game?
Yeah, against Ohio State. Broke my neck playing the game. I played like an extra play with a broken neck. Didn't know my neck was broke till like a week later.
Hey, that's some real ball stuff, though.
Yeah. It was,
you're like the only dude I know that can say, I played with a broken neck.
I would have played in the game with a broken neck, honestly, if the doctors, and I've always been like that kid. When I got hurt, it was like, if I could go, I'm going to go. That's what kind of like separated me from a lot of other players is like, and I remember, they had told me, it was like a week had went by. We had a bye week, so I didn't have practice. Coach said I didn't have to practice. My neck was like messed up. And I'm like, man, we got a game coming up. And it was like, I remember I practiced, right, with a broken neck. I was played a whole practice. I didn't hit anybody, but I was out there practicing.
You out there stiff as ever.
Right. And I told the doctor, I was home, when I put my helmet on, it like hurts. He was like, oh man. He's like, I'm going to see you to the doctor tomorrow. This is like probably 3-4 days before the game, 3 days before the game. And he was like, I'm going to see you back to the doctor, to the hospital, get some more tests. They come back good, we're going to let you play. So, I've never had this problem. I'm like, everything's gonna be straight. I'm going, take my test, come back. I remember your sister's actually at USC.
She is. She is.
Off topic, but I just thought about that. I just remember going into the room, Russ, who's the head trainer over there, and like I walked in and he shut the door, and I'm like, well, why are you shutting the door? What's going on? He was like, Reese, man, I'm gonna tell you this right now. Like, I know you're a tough kid. He's like, but this ain't nothing to play around. You have a broken neck. I'm like, man, my neck ain't broke. He was like, I'm like,
my neck and my back.
Like, bro, I was just practicing yesterday. There's no way my neck is broke. Like, nah. We not. He's like, listen here, like, your neck is broke. You got to go back to the doctor. We're gonna put you in like a neck brace. And like, I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. And he was like, he just knew what type of kid I was. I would have played if they would have let me. And he was like, you don't even think about playing football at this moment.
Oh
like,
my goodness.
We got to get you back healthy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is serious. Like, you don't need surgery, thank God. But like, you have a broken vertebrae and you have to wear this neck brace for at least 6 months. I was like, oh man.
Was it one of those big old neck braces?
Yeah, it was like the big old ones. I had to walk to class, and
But they probably knew you was a football player, though.
They
so
do, but it was kind of like walking around with that thing. It was a hassle, man. But yeah, that was like in one of those times. And I'm like a true junior. I'm like, after this, I'm probably gonna go to the NFL. Like, that was the plans, and then that happened. It was like the second game of the season.
That was season ending.
And it was season ending. Yeah, I had to sit out the whole season. Then the following year after that, like, I didn't make grades. I needed like a B in my class. I got a B minus. Had to sit out 2 seasons in a row. And end up catching like a case during that time on some like fluke stuff at a party in the city of Colton. So it was like boom, 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 all this adversity that I was being faced with at that time. And I was able to overcome that, man. And like you said, it just helped me get closer to God during that time. And, I remember, like I said, my mom, for instance, and I remember having to make that phone call to my mom the time I didn't make grades. And like, it was like one of the hardest like phone calls I had to make. I was like embarrassed in a sense. And it wasn't like I was just doing terrible. Like I said, I needed to be in my class. And I got a B minus, and that B minus made a big difference. Wow. And this is one of the hardest classes that I had to take. It was statistics.
Oh, man, dang, bro, that's pretty good though. B minus in statistics,
and it was over the summer. And it was all impressive. On the computer. So,
bro, that's impressive.
Like, I had to go every day. Like, you couldn't cheat. None of that. You know what I mean? And I got a B minus. And I remember when I first took the class, I told the professor, like, man, I got to get a B in this class. So, like, I'm not going to make grades. Like, make sure he understood. And he didn't realize, like, the B minus will make a difference. And he put a B minus, and I had to miss the whole season. And I remember calling my mom, and I'm like, man, Mom, like, I felt so bad. I just was like, down and out. It was hard for me to make that call. And I remember she told me, she said, son, you know what? Like, maybe it's just not your time. She was like, maybe God knows, like, you're not ready to go to the NFL. Maybe God knows, like, I'm not ready for you to go to the NFL. He's not, maybe, God knows that, like, we just not ready for that right now. So it's just not your time, but your time gonna come. And after she told me that, man, it just relieved so much off of my shoulders.
She responded in a way much more compassionate and merciful than you thought.
What I thought it would be, and that's like one of the struggles I have now. So it's like when I'm going through things, and my mom will always know, like, when to call me or when I call her. She just always knew what to say, like most moms, And at that moment, it was like, man, it was like, just the way she didn't like stress at all about it. She was just like, she said the right things, and it made me feel so much better. And I was able to, persevere and make it through that, man. And, that's why like getting drafted was like such a like, after going through all that.
And what round did you get drafted in?
Third round.
Third round.
Yeah.
So did you and Jimmy and Alan all go at the same time?
Same draft. Yeah, same draft.
That was a cool draft for me to watch too.
Yeah.
Because I was just looking like, man, those are all my boys.
All your boys, man.
Here I am sitting eating popcorn and Doritos and stuff like this, like with the numbers such and such big. Yeah. But no, it was so dope because I was like, man, like those are local legends.
Man,
those are hometown heroes.
It's the real, man. I'm telling you. I mean, to have that many guys from one high school, I don't even think that's been topped yet. We had like 4 or 5 guys from, and Danny Sorensen was like he was on our team in the playoffs our senior year. He was like playing. So to have like all of us, and he ended up winning the Super Bowl. Jimmy won the Super Bowl. I mean, I was able to go there and be there and see that, and that was a
Yeah.
crazy feeling. I wasn't even playing, but just to be able to be at the party and Mary J. Blige performing, and
Wow.
it was crazy. It was a great
It
experience.
definitely makes me feel much better about my loss to y'all in high school.
Definitely, man.
Here's my last question. I asked this last question to Cam Bynum a couple weeks ago when he had him on the when we had him on the podcast. You know, you take your last breath. Shareece Wright takes his last breath on this earth, and you enter into heaven's gates, and God says, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." What do you want everybody back on earth to be saying about Shareece Wright?
Honestly, it's just what I take pride in, just being a good man, being a God-fearing man, being somebody who had compassion and cared about people and did my best to help people when I can, and being a great friend, being a great father, being a great, great brother, great uncle, all those things. Being a good kid, a good man. Honestly, that's it, man. And just knowing that I impacted people's life while I was here.
Well, you're doing it, bro. You're doing it way beyond anybody's expectations, bro. I mean, you are absolutely exceeding
Thank you, bro.
and setting the bar. I mean, I still look up to you, man. You inspire me, and it's just good to know, man. It's good to be doing this work with you, and we're all in our own different lanes. And when I get to see all the boys doing different things, it's cool to see, man. It's really,
a standard
really cool.
for all of us. I think that goes both ways. Like even you doing what you're doing, man, and just like you said, you becoming a cop and you doing your podcast and doing those things to really, make an impact on the community. And like you said, is this a standard for us? And I think we all kind of we all find that fuel from each other from a distance, because we're not in each other's lives every day, but we still follow and keep up. And I think the standard is set high and the bar is high.
I never looked at it from that perspective, bro. And even because I remember even in track, do you remember we ran against we ran against each other in track, the 4x1.
I lost to the boy that went to your school.
Who was it, Grice or Mark? Was it Mark Hill? It was probably Mark Hill or Grice Mullins.
Yeah, Mullins.
Yeah, I still remember running the 4x1 against y'all.
Yeah.
And we had a good. We were fast.
Y'all were fast.
We were that meet. I remember that was like we was neck and neck. But man, you're right, man. We did set a standard. And that's what I'm trying to teach my kids is go out there and beat a standard.
Right.
Don't go and look to be like somebody else. No, you guys create that new standard. Right. You guys have everybody looking up to you guys, but you have to have it has to be a good standard. It can't be no bars set low. And that honestly for me, running as governor, man, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to create a new standard of politics. Right. Yeah. I'm tired of the left, I'm tired of the right, I'm tired of this bickering and complaining on both sides. I want to create a new standard where people can vote for somebody, get behind issues, learn how to agree to disagree on certain things, but all still want the same thing at the end of the day.
Right.
So why not go and create and reinvigorate a new standard, man? I think that's what we're all doing.
You said it takes courage, man, to do what you're doing, man, and to go up. And like you said, even if you tell kids, man, strive for the NFL, everybody not going to make it. That's just what it is. I explained to you before just how hard it is in a percentage. It's less than 1% of people that make it. You know what I mean? But it's it's so many kids, and I'm coaching kids, and I always be honest with them and tell them everybody not gonna make it. But if you fall short, you still succeed at a high level. Because you go to college, you don't have to pay for you still
my education was paid for, and even just making it to the college level, I think the statistic is 5%. But you strive for the top and fall back.
Yeah, even if you fail or fall short, you still fail and fall short at a high level.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to lose when you do that.
I love it, man. Where can do you want people to follow you anywhere? Your donate or your nonprofit, anything?
Shareece Wright 2.0, man, on Instagram. That's where the majority of things that I do, I post on that. But,
I appreciate it. Did you ever play with E. Wright when he was at SC?
Nah, he got up out of there.
So because remember he left you guys and then came to UNLV.
Yeah.
So,
he got in some trouble over there.
Yes, he did. But he did get out of it eventually.
I mean, I'm happy not happy, but he opened up a spot.
Oh, it sure did open up a spot. They got rid of one right to get the next right.
He was a great player too.
He was. He was.
We had the same last name, so it's kind of he probably was mine.
Bro, it was funny, man. When he came to UNLV, he would always say like, "I'm going to the league," and then like, and we'd be like, "Yeah," because he only came to UNLV, bro. That dude probably played like. I don't even know if he played a full season.
Yeah.
And then he played one season, bro. And then after that fool straight up got drafted second round. I was like, dang, that fool sure did go to the league.
Player. I looked up to him. I mean, he's one of the,
he was real good. That dude was a tactician at what he did, man. But
for sure.
But thanks again, bro. I love you, bro. I can't wait to see you at our event in a couple weeks, man. It's so good having all of you guys stay with us on this podcast. If you guys like this podcast, you guys want to hear certain guests, whatever, certain stories, do us a favor, shoot us a DM on my Breaking Bears United page on Instagram or even in the comment section of this YouTube page. But also, make sure you guys hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I know y'all see my merch for my campaign for Governor 2026. Stick around. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate y'all, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care and God bless.